After 10 years of silence, the billionaire unexpectedly reveals his heartwarming love for his abandoned hometown. The diner was buzzing with the clatter of plates and the warm chatter of familiar voices when Sarah caught sight of him. Jack. The way he strolled in, wearing an expensive suit that clashed with the grease-splattered walls of the Maplewood diner, it felt like an offense. She exchanged a glance with Emma, her 9-year-old daughter whose eyes wide with uncertainty met her own. Jake, barely 6, squirmed in his seat, oblivious but sensing a change in the air. It had been a decade since anyone saw Jack return to the town he'd left behind. But just yesterday, it had been just chatter, the old friends lining up to gossip at the counter, whispering about that billionaire who had forgotten them. He had walked out on Maplewood chasing fortune, and now he was stepping back in as if he owned the place. "Sarah," he called, his voice smooth and assured. But to her, it felt like nails on a chalkboard. "Why are you here, Jack?" she demanded, wiping her hands on her apron, her heart racing with a cocktail of anger and distrust. "Came to pay my respects," he said quietly, the weight of his words muffled by the din around them. "I heard about the community center. I want to help." The words were like a slap. Help? He was the last person she expected to show any care for this town now. They needed every bit of help they could get, especially with the fundraiser right around the corner. Yet all she sensed was the undertow of betrayal. "You think showing up here makes it better?" Sarah's voice cracked as she gripped the edge of the counter. "You forgot your roots, Jack. This town has suffered since you left." Jack's eyes flared with hurt. "And I regret that every day. Come on, Sarah, let us work together. We owe it to them." "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As tension hung heavy in the air, old memories bubbled up, hazy days spent throwing snowballs, laughter ringing like the bells at Christmas. Somewhere between the years of silence, a wound had festered deeper than she realized. Sarah steeled herself. "I'll use your money, Jack. But if you're looking for a warm welcome, look somewhere else. You're not my hero, you left us." She turned on her heel, shaking with emotion, sensing his presence still lingering. The days seemed to blend, organizing chairs, adjusting the menu, and dealing with her kids' school schedules while trying to keep her heart locked away from his shattering gaze. But more than the fundraiser's deadline, it was the weight of their unknotted past that cracked the surface of everything. In those fleeting moments filled with uncertainty, hope began to flicker. Was it possible to heal wounds too old to even see? Sarah felt drawn into the rhythm of the diner, a frantic beat of heart and hope, all as Jack's presence blurred the edges of her fragile heart. And just when she thought she could reconcile the tension swirling like coffee in a cup, they stumbled across a painful secret, one that could change everything about her husband and the town they cherished. With the fundraiser looming, Sarah and Jack stood at a crossroads of choice. What lay ahead could destroy or save them both, the community they loved resting precariously on the line. They faced a hard truth, a challenge that would alter not just their lives, but the very fabric of Maplewood itself. As the clock ticked down, the weight of unspoken words thickened the air, promising a confrontation neither was prepared to face. Sarah stood at the window of the diner, watching as the familiar figures of Maplewood moved about their daily lives. Yet an unsettling sense of disconnection enveloped her. Jack's return had rekindled old feelings but also reopened wounds she thought had healed. The noise from the diner faded into a dull roar as her thoughts spiraled. "Mom, can we go to the park after lunch?" Emma's small voice broke through her reverie. The innocent question pulled Sarah back, reminding her that life went on, even outside those memories filled with Jack. "Maybe later, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile. Her focus was still tangled around the idea of partnering with Jack. She watched him at the counter, speaking earnestly with Mr. Jensen, the diner owner and a good friend. The way they laughed felt too intimate, too familiar. It was annoying and comforting all at once, and it made Sarah feel even more lost. Jake fidgeted with the crayons in front of him, eyeing the crowd. "Is that the man who you said left us?" he asked, innocence spilling over like spilled milk. "Yes, Bud," she said softly, fighting the urge to analyze the situation deeper in front of him. "But he's back now. We need to focus on the fundraiser." It was the perfect opportunity to raise money for their beloved community center, but that didn't mean she trusted Jack. A part of her wanted to protect her children from any lingering shadows of disappointment. "I think he's nice," Jake observed, glancing at Jack again before turning to his mother with wide, hopeful eyes. "Let us see." Sarah started, but before she could finish, the bell above the diner door jingled, signaling the entry of someone unexpected. It was Mrs. Patterson, an old widow from the neighborhood. Her stooped frame held a presence that drew attention, and the room fell silent. "Sarah, I need a word," she said, her voice steady despite her frail appearance. "It's about the community center." "Of course, Mrs. Patterson." Just one moment. As she stepped away from the counter, trouble brewing in her stomach, a sense of urgency accompanied the widow. The buzz of conversation once again filled the diner in her absence. After a few moments, Sarah returned, her heart racing. "What did she say?" Emma whispered, eyes sparkling. "Something about the fundraiser and Jack," Sarah mumbled instinctively, her mind grappling with the implications. Mrs. Patterson had revealed that many in town were desperate, feeling forgotten just as Sarah had. They all relied on the fundraiser for hope, a glimmer of normalcy after years of struggle. "Jack can help, can't he?" Emma asked, unaware of the storm brewing inside her mother. "I guess he can, but I don't want to depend on him," Sarah admitted, fighting back tears. She certainly didn't want her kids to grow attached or hope for more than what Jack could offer. But the longer she stood there, the more she could feel the heaviness of the truth before her. The town needed Jack. They needed each other. How could she ignore that when so many were counting on her? "Okay, kids," she called, gathering her resolve. "Let us finish up here and see what we can do about the fundraiser." Sure enough, Jack caught her eye from across the diner, and the weight of possibility hung between them. Could they truly put aside the years of hurt? As her heartbeat quickened, she knew one thing for certain: the past could no longer dictate their future. Just as she turned to her children, a familiar face from her past appeared in the backdrop. The specter of buried secrets loomed larger than ever. "Mom, who's that?" Emma asked, pointing toward a tall figure emerging from the shadows. The question echoed in Sarah's mind, blending with her racing thoughts. She felt propelled into a confrontation she wasn't ready for. And as they stepped from the warmth of the diner into the crisp air of Maplewood, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, what if the truth hidden within the town and within herself was far more complex than she could ever have imagined? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see who Emma was pointing at. "Is that?" Her voice trailed off, the familiar figure striking a chord deep within her. It was Mark, her high school friend, who had disappeared from their lives the moment he received that lucrative job offer in the city. The years had changed him, yet his core remained the same. His dark hair, now streaked with silver, framed a face lined with experiences that painted stories only he could tell. As he approached, the echoes of laughter and shared secrets reverberated in her memory, nagging at the part of her that had been dormant for so long. "Mom?" Jake's voice brought her back to the moment. The children's curiosity was palpable. "Let us see what he wants," Sarah responded, hoping to mask her own swarm of emotions. "Sarah. It's been too long." Mark's smile was infectious, and for a heartbeat, she felt that old warmth radiating back. The hesitant familiarity made her heart quicken. "Mark. I didn't expect to see you here. She felt the jittery thrill of seeing someone who had once meant so much. He glanced at her kids, and a soft smile formed. You have a lovely family. I heard about the fundraiser. I came back to see if I could help. The town hadn't just forgotten him, he had returned, rekindling hope for many, including Sarah. Thank you, Mark. We really need the support, she managed, feeling gratitude swell in the pit of her stomach. Her gaze flicked toward Jack, who was still watching from the diner doorway, expression unreadable. The three of them stood in a moment of unspoken understanding, connecting across a chasm of time. But with each second that slipped by, the unanswered questions cluttered Sarah's mind. Did Mark's return mean something more? Was he willing to stay, to help not just the community, but her? Emma tugged at Sarah's shirt, glancing between her mother and Mark. Can he help build the playground? It's for the kids, right? Yes. Of course. Sarah laughed gently, remembering the innocence of her daughter's wishes as she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Yet, while the children buzzed with delight, Sarah felt the fraying threads of her past tighten around her. Complicated emotions swirled. Her heart was still tethered to Jack, but here was Mark, offering support disguised in nostalgia. As they shifted from small talk to specific ideas for the fundraiser, Sarah found herself lost amid memories of laughter shared with Mark, the carefree nights where their future seemed limitless. But then that familiar pull in her chest reminded her of Jack's potential involvement in this new chapter. Do you think we could truly raise enough money? Sarah finally asked, the shadows of doubt creeping into her thoughts again. In this town? Absolutely, Mark replied confidently. His assurance ignited a flicker of hope in her heart. As they parted ways, promising to meet again for a planning session, Sarah walked toward the familiar remnants of her past and the looming darkness that had once consumed her. With each step, she felt excitement mingled with anxiety. Could she truly trust them both? The sun began to dip low, casting a golden hue over Maplewood. Sarah glanced one last time at the diner, catching Jack's eye. A silent conversation hung between them, and she felt a strength growing within her. But the shadows remain, and the weight of hidden truths still clung to her heart. What would happen next when secrets began to surface, intertwining their fates in ways they couldn't yet comprehend? As darkness fell over Maplewood, Sarah's heart raced with a mixture of nostalgia and trepidation. She knew she had to face the complexity of her feelings. Mark's reappearance had fueled an unexpected spark, but Jack remained a constant presence in her life, a person of deep loyalty, even if unspoken tensions loomed like shadows. At home, the soft glow from the kitchen light spilled into the living room. The familiar scent of dinner simmering chicken and rice wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Jake and Emma were already at the table, animatedly discussing their day, oblivious to the internal tempest swirling in Sarah's heart. Mom! Did you see Mark? Jake asked, his eyes wide with excitement. Yes, I did, she replied, forcing a smile. He has some great ideas for the playground. Emma piped up, her face lighting up. Can we help him? I want to paint the swings bright blue. Sarah stared at her children, their innocent enthusiasm contrasting sharply with her own conflicted emotions. That sounds wonderful, sweetie, she managed. The weight of nostalgia clung to her. She was both proud of her children and painfully aware of the roads she'd navigated alone to raise them. As she joined them at the table, the clatter of silverware filled the silence. The chatter about school projects and games filled the air, but Sarah's mind wandered back to that moment with Mark, the warmth of his smile, the genuine kindness in his voice. Would he fit back into her life after all these years? Once dinner was done and the kids were tucked away in their beds, Sarah found herself on the porch, gazing up at the stars that sprinkled the night sky. The soft hum of crickets was a backdrop to her thoughts. The world felt heavy, and she leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes to reflect. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark. Hey, just wanted to confirm our planning session. Looking forward to catching up and making some big dreams happen for the playground." She stared at the screen, torn. There was something hopeful about his message. Was it just about the fundraiser? Or could it be a chance to rebuild their friendship, maybe something deeper? A creaking sound interrupted her thoughts, pulling her gaze toward the open door. Jack stood there, hands tucked into his pockets, his expression serious. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly. Sarah hesitated, the whirlwind of emotions rendering her mute. "Yeah, just thinking," she finally replied, her heart pounding. Jack stepped onto the porch, concern etched on his face. "I saw you talking to Mark earlier. It looked intense. You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" A part of her wanted to confide in him, to reveal the swirling thoughts that had begun to bond her to Mark again. But another part held her back, afraid of what his reaction might be. Instead, she nodded, forcing a smile. "It's nothing. Just old memories." Jack shifted uncomfortably. Memories can be tricky. His gaze slipped past her to the night sky. "People change, they don't always reconnect the way we hope." His words hung thick in the air, heavy with unspoken feelings. Maybe in that moment, they both understood the deeper layers of what was left unaddressed. "I know," she finally murmured, feeling the weight of his concern. "But I feel like I'm at a crossroads." Jack met her gaze, and the distance closed just a bit. "You'll know what to do." The stillness enveloped them again, but neither could shake the tension of unsaid truths. Sarah's mind drifted between the past and the uncertain future. What road would she take? And could either path lead her to happiness, or would they only unravel more secrets that shaped their lives? The next day loomed large, and with it, the meeting with Mark. What revelation might stem from their discussion, and would it change the course of their lives forever? Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of impending change, her heart racing at the possibilities that lay ahead. The next morning broke with a sleepy sunshine filtering through the drawn curtains, casting golden stripes across Sarah's living room. The kids were still in bed, but Sarah was wide awake, her mind racing with thoughts of the day ahead. She rubbed her temples, hoping to ease the pressure brewing inside her head. After a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, she pulled on a light jacket and stepped outside. The crisp air was refreshing, yet it did little to calm her nerves. Her heart raced with uncertainty about her meeting with Mark. Memories of their childhood laughing on the swings, summer picnics by the lake flooded her mind, leaving her feeling both nostalgic and anxious. As she walked toward the community center, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being drawn into two worlds. On one hand, there was the comforting familiarity of Jack and their family life. On the other, there was the tugging pull of the past that Mark represented. What kind of relationship could possibly be built on a foundation of memories, after years of silence? Arriving at the community center, Sarah took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air as Mark stood by the large window, glancing out at the playground. The sight of him made her heart flip. He looked older, more refined, yet still held that spark of boyish charm that lingered from their youth. "Hey, Sarah!" he exclaimed, turning to face her with a warm smile. "I'm glad you could make it." "Hi, Mark," she replied, her voice a little softer than she intended. There was an undeniable electricity in the air, swirling between them. His eyes searched hers, as if trying to gauge the years that had passed. "I've been thinking a lot about what we could do for the playground. I really think it could be something special for the kids and the community." A flutter of excitement bristled within her. "Yeah, I saw what you put on paper. Your ideas are amazing, really." They began to go over the plans, but as they discussed smaller details, Sarah felt the conversation start to drift. She was conscious of every glance, every smile, every chuckle they shared. The past opened up like a well-worn book, each page filled with stories she thought had been closed forever. "Remember the time we tried to build that tree house? Mark laughed, his eyes sparkling. It turned into more of a bird's nest than a house. Sarah chuckled too, the memories lighting up her heart. Yeah, and your dad had to come and rescue us after we fell out. In that moment, the world around them faded, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of laughter and warmth. But the laughter began to fade, replaced by a curious heaviness in the air. Mark's expression grew serious, and Sarah's heart thumped loudly in her chest. There's something I've been meaning to say, Sarah. Something I've thought a lot about over the years. The tension hung thick in the air, and Sarah felt her breath catch. Was he about to reveal an old flame buried under years of silence? Or had the recent connection formed something new? Before she could process her thoughts, Jack's face flashed through her mind. Would he understand? Could she take the leap, knowing it might change everything? Just then, the sound of laughter from the playground broke their moment. It was a simple, joyful sound that brought Sarah back from the precipice of her thoughts. She looked out the window and saw her children playing, unbothered by the weight of decisions yet to be made, and it struck her anew how life was intertwined between love, choices, and the unforeseen paths we travel. Mark, wait, she murmured, unsure of what to say. Would she embrace the uncertainty and pursue whatever it was Mark was about to reveal? Or would she retreat back into the safety of her known life? His eyes searched hers, and the question hung between them, palpable and thick. Time froze as both awaited the next moment, unaware that a decision was about to unfold, one that could alter the very fabric of their lives. What would she choose in that critical instant? Would she venture into the unknown, or would the foothold of her present pull her back? Sarah's breath caught as she met Mark's gaze. The silence was heavy, each second stretching longer than the last. The laughter from the playground faded into background noise, replaced by the rapid thud of her heartbeat in her ears. What was he going to say? Sarah, he started, his voice steady yet tinged with urgency. But then, as if suddenly struck by a wave of doubt, he hesitated. His eyes flickered toward the window, where the children danced carefree in the sun-drenched playground. When he turned back, there was a simmering mix of vulnerability and determination in his expression. I've missed you. A lot. The simplicity of his confession hit her harder than anticipated. There was an innocence in his admission, a longing that echoed through the years they had spent apart. Goosebumps rippled down her arms as she considered what that meant. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, the community center door swung open, interrupting the moment. A steady stream of parents and children flowed in, shattering the intimacy they had started to build. She glanced at the newcomers, a quick sense of relief washing over her. But then she looked back at Mark, who remained focused, his gaze sealing their moment. Sarah. A voice boomed from behind her. It was her husband, Jack, holding a lunch bag and a wide smile. He waved cheerfully, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. I thought I'd surprise you. Mark's expression shifted at the sight of Jack, the warmth replaced with an unreadable tension. Sarah's heart sank. Could she maintain this spark of connection with Mark while balancing her life with Jack? She felt torn, caught between the bustling present and a past that beckoned like an old friend. Jack! Hey! Sarah exclaimed, her voice friendly but strained. She quickly stepped toward her husband, searching for solidity in his familiar embrace. What is going on? Jack asked, looking back and forth between her and Mark. Just discussing the playground plans, she said, trying to keep her voice light, though it felt like a weight dragging her down. Mark was sharing some great ideas. Sounds like fun. Jack replied, clasping a hand on Mark's shoulder. I'm glad to see you, man. It's been years. Mark returned the smile, but there was a flicker of something deeper in his eyes, a silent exchange that only the two of them seemed to understand. Yeah, it has, he said, the words tight. Surrounded by laughter, the reality of her responsibilities flooded in, coating each unspoken possibility with layers of doubt. The playground opened before her like a crossroads. Which path should she take? Was she willing to step into the unknown, potentially stepping away from the life she'd built with Jack? As the conversations flowed around them, Sarah felt increasingly weighed down by the choices ahead. "Hey, how about we all grab coffee?" Jack suggested, turning to Mark. "We can sketch out more ideas together." "Sure, sounds good," Mark replied, though the enthusiasm didn't quite reach his eyes. As they moved to the coffee station, Sarah looked back at the playground where her children played blissfully unaware. Just like them, she had never been so caught up in the complexities of love and choice. But now choices loomed ahead of her. Choices that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Just as she prepared to speak up about her feelings for Mark, a fleeting glimpse of Jack's laughter brought her back, and she felt the ground shift beneath her. "Mark," she started hesitantly, but just then, the world around her shifted once more, as a loud crash erupted from the playground, causing all heads to turn. "Mom!" Her youngest called out, a look of panic in her wide eyes. And in that moment, everything else faded, the playground, Mark's unspoken words, her own indecision. There were immediate needs to attend to, and clarity felt far away. As she rushed toward her children, she realized her heart was pulling her in two different directions. When she glanced over her shoulder, Mark's expression was unreadable, a mixture of understanding and disappointment. Could she ever truly balance these two worlds? Would the choices she made today define her tomorrow? The stakes felt higher than ever, and as Sarah moved to comfort her kids, the weight of her decisions loomed large. What lay ahead would not only test the bonds of her family but challenge the very essence of her happiness. Would she find a way to weave together the threads of her past and her present into a future that made sense? As the laughter faded again into the background, Sarah felt the urgency of her crossroads, the path ahead dark and tangled, ready to unfurl into the unknown. "Mom! Look out!" Her youngest shrieked, and the sound pierced through the noise of the community center, snapping Sarah back to the moment at hand. Her heart raced as she rushed toward the playground, her mind reeling with the warning. Kids were circling around a fallen slide, some laughing, others crying. When she reached the scene, her pulse thumped as she spotted Danny on the ground, holding his elbow and wincing. Sarah knelt beside him, quickly assessing the situation. "Danny, sweetheart, what happened?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. He grimaced, tears forming in his eyes. "I fell, Mom. It hurts really bad." Her maternal instincts kicked into high gear. She gently took hold of his elbow to check for any serious injury. Jack had approached from behind, his brow furrowed with worry. "Is he all right?" Jack asked, crouching beside her. "I think just scraped up a bit. Maybe a bruise." She forced a smile, but her heart sank deeper. The worry of his pain mirrored the chaos swirling within her own heart. "Can you stand, buddy?" Jack asked gently, helping Danny to his feet. A little wince escaped Danny's lips, but he straightened up. "Yeah, I think so." As they drew Danny into a comforting hug, Sarah's gaze drifted back to Mark, who stood at the periphery, watching. There was a hint of worry in his eyes, but also something else, something deeper that made her heart clench. "Are you okay, kiddo?" Mark called out, stepping closer, a concerned look crossing his face. "Yeah, I'm fine, just banged up a bit," Danny replied, his gratitude evident even through his tears. Mark smiled, but Sarah felt the tension knot in her stomach again. How easily their moment had fractured, and here was a new reality. A family needing her, pulling her toward a familiar life. Yet, her pulse quickened at the thought of the uncharted territory with Mark, the unspoken connection they shared. "Do you need to go to the hospital?" Jack asked, glancing at Sarah. No. Just some ice should do it," she reassured him, trying to keep some semblance of calm. Danny's fingers curled tighter around her arm as she guided him to a shaded bench. She noticed Mark stand a little taller, a flicker of admiration in his eyes at how she handled the situation. "What about you, Mark? Have you settled in yet?" Jack's voice broke into her thoughts, and she felt all three of them teetering between needing connection and the awkwardness of their situation. "Just getting started, really," Mark replied, his words unsure, like the space between them available for endless interpretation. "I was just passing through and thought I'd say hello." As they bandaged Danny's elbow, her focus snapped to the task at hand. The laughter of children resumed around them, piercing her momentary bubble of uncertainty. With Danny perched on her knee, speaking about superheroes, she gazed back at Mark. There was something in the way he looked at her that made her pulse race. The warmth, the understanding, it all felt tangible, and she found herself yearning to step away from the ordinary. The feeling swept over her, momentarily silencing the chaos of her doubts. But just as quickly, reality crashed back. Here she was, caught between a world filled with obligations and one that called to her spirit. "I should take Danny home, make sure he's okay," she said suddenly, breaking eye contact with Mark. His disappointment was palpable. She could feel it, a weight settling between them. "Yeah, I get that," Mark replied, his voice barely masking his disappointment. Jack wrapped an arm around Sarah's shoulders. "Let us get him settled and then maybe we can all catch up later, Mark." "Sure," Mark said softly, holding her gaze just a moment longer before stepping back. As they left the playground, Sarah felt a sense of hesitation within her. Could she really just move on with her day, with her life? Did she even want to? Each step felt heavier than the last. What lay ahead was a mixture of care and confusion, tangled emotions threatening to spill over. And the hardest part? The thought of saying goodbye to a piece of her past. Whatever that meant for her future. What would she choose when the dust settled? Was she ready to face the consequence of her desires? As the community center faded behind her, the echo of Mark's words lingered in her thoughts. Could she ever be brave enough to confront what her heart truly wanted? The ride home felt different, burdened with a weight Sarah couldn't quite shake. Danny was quiet in the back seat, occasionally fiddling with his superhero figures, lost in thought. She stole glances at him through the rearview mirror, her heart tugging with the forgotten worry of the playground. "Hey, kiddo," she said, trying to tap into her mom's strength. "You think you might want to go rent a movie tonight? Something fun to take your mind off things?" His response was slow and quiet. "Maybe like a superhero movie?" "Absolutely." Sarah smiled, hiding the flickering shadow of doubt that danced in her mind. "We can even grab some ice cream afterward. Can we have chocolate?" He replied, a hint of a smile breaking through the remnants of his earlier pain. "Deal," she said, her spirits lifting just a bit. The joy in their shared moment was a small comfort, a refuge where the chaos dimmed. When they arrived home, the familiar scent of the house enveloped her like a warm blanket. Sarah busied herself finding ice packs for Danny's elbow while he settled on the couch, legs tucked up beneath him. She applied the ice gently, making silly faces to elicit a giggle. For a moment, everything felt normal, just like it had been before life got complicated. Yet, a nagging thought lingered. Mark's face flashed through her mind, igniting a fire that had only been smoldering for years. What path was she even on? Sarah closed her eyes, letting the weight of the moment wash over her. She found herself recalling their last conversation, the way his gaze held hers longer than necessary. Had she waited too long to address the feelings that were creeping back in? The TV flickered, casting shadows across the room. Danny clapped his hands excitedly when the opening credits of a movie rolled. The laughter, the bright colors, the comfort of it all, and yet, in the midst of this coziness, unease coiled in her stomach. Could she face Mark again? Would he even want her to? That night, as she tucked Danny into bed, she sang him a soft lullaby, her voice barely a whisper. The soft rhythm of the words drifted through her mind, blending into the persistent thoughts of what might come next. Danny's eyelids grew heavy. Mom? Yeah, buddy? Do you think people can change? His innocent question struck her. The truth was, she didn't know. I think sometimes, yes. But it takes a lot of courage. Like superheroes? He asked, half asleep. Exactly like that. When she finally closed the door to his room, Sarah leaned against it, breathing in the quiet. The weight of her past shifted uncomfortably in her chest. She needed to be brave, to confront what was brewing just beneath the surface. Hours later, while she lay in bed, the screen of her phone lit up with a new message. It was from Mark. Just a quick text, but it sent ripples through her chest, a mix of dread and anticipation. Hey, I hope Danny's okay. Would love to catch up sometime. Just let me know. Her heart raced. The invitation hung in the air, tantalizing and terrifying all at once. Would she take that step? What would it mean for both of them? As she typed a response, her fingers hovered above the keys. The moment held the promise of something new, or perhaps a return to something long forgotten. What if this was the opportunity to discover the truth behind their long silence? As she hit send, uncertainty swirled inside her. Could she really step into the unknown and claim the life she long avoided? The waiting game began, but the question remained: would she have the courage to uncover what her heart truly wanted? Morning light filtered softly through the blinds as Sarah stirred awake. A mix of anticipation and anxiety settled in the pit of her stomach. She blinked at her phone, the screen still dark, holding its secrets close. Had he replied? With a few reluctant sighs, she swung her legs out of bed and padded to the kitchen. The aroma of coffee brewing filled the small space, a daily comfort that somehow felt heavier today. She poured a cup, letting the steam envelop her, a brief reprieve from her racing thoughts. Danny, still in his superhero pajamas, stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Morning, Mom," he mumbled, his voice still thick with dreams. "Morning, sleepyhead. Ready for a movie and ice cream today?" She asked cheerfully, but she found herself wishing she could share the day's adventure with someone else too. "Yeah. I want to pick the best one." He brightened, and in that moment, Sarah's heart swelled with love for her son. His excitement was a reminder that no matter the uncertainties in her life, she had Danny. Always. They settled into the couch later that morning, the TV flickering with animated tales of masked heroes, all while the ice cream melted in bowls nearby. Sarah watched him laughing, surrounded by colorful characters, and her heart ached at the thought of hiding the truth from him. Her phone buzzed, startling her from her reverie. Sarah's heart skipped. She grabbed it, and the message from Mark glowed on the screen. "Hey, I'd really like to catch up. Can we meet?" The weight of his words felt both like a promise and a threat. Part of her wanted to run, to wrap herself in the comfort of her routine with Danny. But beneath the fear lay a flicker of hope, urging her to consider the possibilities. "What's wrong, Mom? You look like you just saw a ghost." Danny's wide eyes filled with concern as he sat up, a stray piece of blue ice cream dripped from his chin. "Just a friend asking to see me," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady, to shield her son from the chaos in her mind. "How about we finish our movie first?" "Okay," he said, diving back into the animated world. Sarah forced herself to focus on Danny, but the phone in her hand felt like a weight instead of a connection. After the movie finished, she decided to distract herself with a trip to the park. Fresh air always helped. As they strolled, Danny chattered about superhero powers, clutching his favorite action figure. Laughter bubbled easily between them, but Sarah couldn't shake off the nagging thoughts pooling at the back of her mind. She found a quiet spot beneath a large oak tree, the branches swaying gently. As Danny played in the grass, she absent-mindedly scrolled through her messages again. Mark's invitation wasn't an insistent demand, it was soft yet clear. "Mom!" Danny called, his voice bursting with excitement. "Look at what I can do." He tried to lift his tiny superhero figure high above his head, mimicking the characters they had watched. "Wow! You're going to save the world!" Sarah cheered, her heart swelling with pride. As they continued to play, laughter danced in the air, yet the whisper of Mark's text lingered in the back of her mind. Could she face him? Danny's laughter broke through her thoughts. He was her light, a constant in a life where shadows threatened to creep back in. But wouldn't this be the first step in her own transformation? As the golden light of evening fell around them, Sarah felt the urge to confront not just Mark, but the hidden parts of herself. Would she have the strength to embrace that? A moment later, Danny, exhausted from play, leaned against her, his small body a comfort. In that instant, Sarah realized she wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing it for him, for their little family. She would respond to Mark. She wanted to know if change was possible, not only in him but in her too. With all the courage she could muster, she pulled out her phone. Before she could talk herself out of it, her fingers moved with determination. "Let us meet," she typed back, each word a vow that echoed in her heart. As she hit send, Sarah felt a surge of something she hadn't felt in years: hopeful eagerness. What awaited her on this path forward? Would she find the answers she sought, or was she simply steering toward another storm? The next chapter had begun, and courage had lit the way. The meeting was set for that evening, and as the sun dipped low, casting streaks of orange and pink across the sky, Sarah felt both exhilarated and terrified. She decided to wear a simple teal dress, a choice that flattered her while feeling comfortable. It mirrored the hope she began to nurture within. Danny was with his friend across the street, so for the first time all day, she found a moment of stillness. Breathing deeply, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror. A woman who had faced heartache but was ready to embrace the future stared back at her. The past wouldn't define her, and she wouldn't shy away from what lay ahead no matter how daunting. As she left her house and walked toward the diner, the bustling sounds of Maplewood enveloped her. People waved and smiled, their familiar faces offering warmth and comfort. All of it reminded her of her roots, solidifying the belief that she had something worth fighting for, not just her own happiness, but also that of her children. As she entered the diner, she spotted Mark right away. He sat at a corner table, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, his expression one of hope mixed with a hint of nervousness. When their eyes met, his face brightened, and Sarah felt the tension from earlier lift a little. "Hey!" Mark greeted her, his smile genuine and inviting. "Thanks for coming." "Of course," she replied, sliding into the seat across from him. The weight of the world seemed to shift with that one simple greeting. They exchanged small talk, catching up on the years that had floated away like autumn leaves. Laughter bubbled between them as memories filled the gaps of time they had spent apart, playing in the park, shared secrets, the twist of fate that separated them. It was a refuge of familiarity amidst the storm of uncertainty. "Sarah, I know things have changed," he began, his tone shifting to something more serious. "But I've often thought about what could have been. I still feel a connection to you, and I want to be honest." Her breath caught in her throat, anticipation and anxiety swirling in her chest. "What do you mean?" "Let me finish," he said gently. "I know we've both taken different paths, but I'd like to find out what it could look like for us to explore this, whatever this is." He gestured between them, vulnerability shining in his eyes. Sarah's heart raced as hope ignited within her, but a flicker of fear warned her to tread carefully. "Mark, I care about my family deeply. I'm not here to break anyone's heart or change what I've built with Jack." But she took a deep breath, emotions flooding back, memories, dreams, what-ifs lingering in the air. "I've felt so lost for so long. I want to be brave. I want to find out if the feelings we had were real or just a fantasy." Mark nodded, understanding etched on his face. "I get it. And Jack?" He paused, studying her. What about him? I'm still navigating how I feel about Jack, Sarah admitted. There's a history there, a family, but I can't ignore how I feel when I'm with you. I owe it to myself to explore this, not just for my sake but for my kids too. The words sprang forth, clear and full of purpose. I think it's okay to want happiness for yourself, Mark whispered, eyes locked onto hers with a fierce sincerity. You've been strong for so long. You deserve to be happy. Just then, the door of the diner creaked open, and in walked Jack. The lively chatter came to a halt, heads turning toward him. Sarah felt a jolt, a mixture of warmth and guilt spreading through her. Seeing him in that moment, that familiar smile may have ignited something, but it also tensed the air around her. Jack approached the table, a lightness in his step. Hey! I was looking for you. I hope I'm not interrupting. Mark and Sarah exchanged glances. Tension crackled between them, an unseen rope tightening around their unspoken truths. Not at all, Sarah replied, trying to maintain composure. We were just talking about the fundraiser. Jack's eyes flickered to Mark. Great. I'd love to help. You two have been busy planning. Yeah, Mark said slowly, gauging Jack's demeanor. We've been brainstorming ideas. Well, let's get in on this together then, Jack offered, his smile genuine as he settled himself down at their table. Yet behind that smile, Sarah felt the grounding weight of decisions crowding her mind. As they delved into plans for the fundraiser, laughter mingled with an underlying tension. Sarah tried to focus, but her heart pulsed heavily, caught between the familiar and the unknown. That night, as she lay in bed, the events of the day swirled in her mind. She knew one thing: she had to be honest with herself and with Jack. She would no longer let the shadows of her past dictate her path forward. Tomorrow, she would talk to Jack, just like she was prepared to speak to Mark. Choices remained, and while the stakes were higher than ever, Sarah felt an undeniable clarity crystallizing in her thoughts. Change was on the horizon, waiting patiently as she gathered her strength. With dawn's light peeking through the curtains, she found hope threading through her heart. Each day was a new beginning, and she was finally ready to embrace it, whatever that might look like. Now came the true test of bravery, to face her fears, redefine her desires, and seek the happiness intertwined with love, family, and the possibility of a rekindled dream. It was time to weave together the pieces of her life, to reclaim her story, and to step boldly into the future. And with that realization, Sarah's heart fluttered with anticipation. This was just the beginning. Now, dear friends, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you won't miss any exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like right now. Your support helps us reach so many more hearts. Comment below how you felt about Sarah's journey and her decision to face the unknown. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and can relate. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Together, we can create a community that lifts each other up.